The East African tradition of the Maasai tribe is to greet one another with the words Kasirian Ngera, which is Swahili for, so how are the children? In that community, the well-being of their children is the highest priority. If you are interested in participating in thought-provoking conversations about the well-being of children and families, please tune in every Wednesday at 3 p.m. to Fresh Start Today on 860 AM WNOV. Together, we can save our children. Hey, y'all listen to Fresh Start Today. And I'm your host, Jermaine Reed. He playing around. See, the engineer playing around. He threw me off. But you're listening to Fresh Start Today with Jermaine Reed. We have Keon Jackson Malone on the mixing board. We have Dr. Smith. Ramell Smith is here in the studio with us, along with Dr. Ben Radar. And we have Sean Roby at the far end. And we're going to be talking about the Trump effect. What does Trump effect have to do with children, foster children? Well, we're going to talk about it because supposedly there is this Trump effect that's related to the impact that the 2016 presidential election or campaign has had on children's mental and emotional functioning and peer relations in the school environment. So we're going to talk about that because perhaps you have noticed as a parent or an educator that things have been a little tense in the classroom, on the playground, in the lunchroom, or on the block. So we're going to talk about that today, and you can pick up the phone and call 414-444-5250, 414-444-5250. But before we get up into the thick of it, let me just make a couple of announcements for you. One is November is National Adoption Month. National Adoption Month. It's also Family Caregiver Month and Prematurity Awareness Month. I don't know, what is a Prematurity Awareness Month? What's Prematurity Awareness Month?
Well, I think we actually, a couple weeks ago, we kind of discussed that word. It's more looking at the idea of being healthy and making sure that parents are prepared well in advance when talking about having children. And then when they're in the process or once a child is in the womb, they want to make sure that they're attending all of their regular appointments or whatnot. So it's all of those things well before the baby is here and while the baby is here and even after the baby's born.
Thanks a lot for informing us what Prematurity Awareness Month is. Also, the Partnership Council is this Friday from 12 p.m. till 2 o'clock p.m. The Milwaukee Child Welfare Partnership Council will be at 635 North 26th Street. The phone number is 414-343-5500. Again, that's going to be this Friday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. at 635 North 26th Street. Phone number 414-343-5500. So, gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today we want to explore this topic about the Trump effect in terms of how it's having an impact. The 2016 presidential election has had an impact on children's mental and emotional functioning. A couple of things we hope that we can convey to our audience is what impact has the campaign had on children, but also to explore the pervasiveness of bullying, harassing, segregate, discriminatory behavior in America's school, and then also give parents and educators tools to help children who are perpetrators as well as victims of these type of behaviors. All right, so again, good afternoon. So let's talk about it. There's a lot that was going on. You know, actually for 2 years now, when Donald Trump first declared that he was going to run for the presidency of the United States, the Donald came out of the pen swinging, and he even knocked down the governor of this state, knocked him out the ring. It was how many folks was it that came out at first? The Republicans.
13 of them.
It was a gang of them. It was a gang of them thugs. I'm just joking. It was a gang of those gentlemen, and even for what's her name, Fiona? Was it Carly Fiona, the lady who was running? Remember her? The one he said wasn't really attractive. She won't look like she was. Remember?
Yes, yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, he just one by one, the Donald just knocked him out. But was his strategy anything but new? How long has American politics and American political campaigning, can you ever think of a time when it was sanitary?
Not within my lifetime, I can't.
Okay, so
But it's gotten progressively worse, and you see it gets progressively worse as you start to see the amount that it costs to have a campaign. So sometimes it's not about who's the best or most qualified candidate, but who's the candidate that can raise the most money. And in raising those money, a big part of those ads, and the majority of those ads are negative based. So
okay.
That's where you
So what is our message then to young folks, to children? Because whether we're talking about campaigning on a local level or on a federal level, campaigns are nasty. It's about destroying people's image, and folks will pay millions upon millions of dollars to assassinate an individual's character. What are we saying behind that? How do we reconcile this message of not bullying and not being aggressive toward your mates and your friends and your peers, but yet right on the television, on radio ads, there's all this negative energy, lies, and debauchery. So how do we reconcile that?
I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's a really good question, because when you think about it, there's so many opportunities for teaching moments with kids or youth that you work with. And so when you have a kid who may go to school and just wail on another kid and throw them all around the classroom, but then they can turn around and say, well, I seen such and such do it on TV. I seen a boxer do it. I seen the president-elect talk all these, say all these unnecessary things. Why can't I do it?
Okay.
And so that goes back to it puts providers or parents in a very difficult position. But I think at the same time, we still need to maximize on this quote-unquote teaching moment, so we can teach kids that, you know what, everything that you hear and see on television is not always good for you, and things do have repercussions.
Well, let's take a trip back in time. Let's go back to 1828. What year? 1828. Now, what happened in 1828? John Quincy Adams called Andrew Jackson's wife, Rachel, a dirty black wench, a convicted adulteress, and said she was prone to open and notorious lewdness. What did he just call her? A whore. That's what he called her. Now, that was in 1828. Let's fast forward to 1860.
Sure, it was 1828.
You think that was last week?
No, I'm saying is that date.
No, I'm like 1828. John Quincy Adams called Andrew Jackson's wife, Rachel, a dirty black.
Oh, John
wench.
Quincy Adams. I thought you said John Adams.
You know what? Look, scholar, listen.
Well, I'm just saying, because John Adams was the
John
second president.
Quincy Adams. I got my facts straight today, okay? Now, let's fast forward. I had a little brief interruption right there. But, and we're going to talk to JT in a minute. But 1860, Stephen Douglas took aim at Abraham Lincoln, said he was a horrid-looking wretch, sooty and scroungely in aspect, a cross between the nutmeg dealer, the horse swapper, and the nightman or the boogeyman. Now, those weren't kind words. I mean, they didn't have social media back then, can you imagine? So I'm wondering how the media has, what their involvement, their role has been in spreading, these negative messages, because evidently we're going back to the 1800s, saying negative things about people, attacking people, calling folks out of their name is nothing new. Now, so help me understand, gentlemen, about this Trump effect. What is so different about this election or the past 2016 presidential campaign and the previous one?
One thing I think that is glaring today, as we're kind of looking at it retrospectively, is the outcome. And I think the idea that we had a president in Obama for the last no drama Obama, who's really embodied kind of a mentor figure, a figure that parents can point to and say, this is somebody who doesn't hit below the belt, who's not prone to rhetoric that's disparaging or is focused on character assaults, and also holds in high esteem the people of this land, the diverse people of this land. I think what we're looking at in this particular election is after a period of time where we have had a much more diverse and integrated governance.
Okay.
We now have language coming from a person who wants to take the highest seat in the land that's dismissive and challenging, not of his opponent, which I think is also certainly, we saw the bullying happen on an individual level, the way that Trump may have engaged with certain people, things that have been now repeated a million different times that he had said to other candidates and so forth, but also speaking about groups of people in the nation, and that this person be eventually holding the highest office of the land. I think if parents were to have seen the outcome of the election, and many were calculating Clinton's going to win, they would have said, "Well, see, kids, you can't beat, you can't bully and win." A lot of my cohorts, friends and families and clients were left with the challenge: what do we say about this kind of behavior? Can we talk negatively about groups of people? Can we talk negatively about individuals and still come out ahead? And if the answer is an affirmative, I think that's what puts people on, and parents and teachers really on firm ground. What message do we make out of this?
Yeah, if I can say something on this point, I think we have to go back even further than 1828.
Okay, take me back a little further then. Take me back. We're on a journey.
You go, excuse me, to the creation of this country. It was the rhetoric that was used to fight against the British. It was what was used, and whenever you're trying to depose a system, there's always a demonization of a person or a country or an object. So bullying has never been a secret. Right makes right, we used to say, but the truth is might makes right. So we've been a country of bullies from the beginning. When you can go over into another land and outright steal a sect of people and say, you're going to come here and you're going to build our land and we're going to be the home of the free and the home of the brave, you see the hypocrisy stated already inside. So when we talk about, my mama said something, we always talk intellectual, but my mama said, if you start wrong, you're going to finish wrong. And so when we look at our country, this is exactly what it is and what it was designed to do. And if we're being absolutely honest, this is a country that's ruled by an opulent sector. Is where the few rules the many. So whenever we talk about political elections, whether we want to zoom back to 1776, 1828, or 2008 and 2016, we're really looking at a farce of a system because real leadership is invisible. Whenever you look at any great organization, you don't change leadership at the top every 4 years, every 8 years. You'll hear presidents say, you know what, after 4 years or after 8 years, you know what, our founding fathers were absolutely correct. We need a break. You need to move on. But yet we have people in Congress, in the Senate, for 28 years, 30 years, like they're not under great stress and duress and don't need to be relieved. And the reason why that is because this country is ruled by a select few. And what they do is that what the goal is to do is to keep the masses ignorant, to keep us dumbified, to allow us to be amused. And this is what happens with the age of social media, with the age of everything that we do, because a lot of people are talking about, the Trump effect. But the fact of the matter is, Clinton was just as big as a bully as Trump in her campaign media. And a lot of the things was what makes some of the other campaign people scarier is that they implement the same rules, but they give you a false look in who they are, sort of like a wolf in sheep's clothing, have the same wolfeness behavior, but they give the appearance of a sheep. But going back to the point of real leadership, the more that we are confounded, the reason why Donald Trump was such a perfect candidate, because he's entertaining. Sex sells, provocative things move the nature, and Donald Trump is full of all of this. He knows how to move the needle of the average person. In Hollywood they said, It's any type of news is basically good news for them.
Right.
You can't get bad advertising. If you're talking about me, I'm there. And when they talk about in the media, how much free media that Donald Trump got, you know why? Because people love to hear him. He's polarizing. Why do we listen to different sportcasters and different people? Because we either love them or we hate them. They're polarizing. And Donald Trump is perfect for, like I said, that ruling class, that top 10% of the 1% that rules our nation, that owns over 40% of the wealth. These are the people who control the lobbyists and all of the all of the people who make the decisions. So no matter if it's Trump, if it's Clinton, or whatever who's ruling, what we're being is all fooled by a system. And I'm not saying voting doesn't matter, but what it is they keep us so dumbified that 47% of the population didn't even vote.
Okay, JT, you're on Fresh Start today. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jermaine Reed. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. My friend.
And first of all, Jermaine, I'm scared of you.
Really?
But why?
Why?
Because you were there this morning, here you are again. So
Bad,
I'm not
bad.
telling you. I just appreciate your energy.
Well, thanks a lot. You know, they call that medication, JT. That's the impact of medication, the effect it has on you.
Well,
but thank
whatever
you.
medication you on, I wish I had it.
Oh, I got something for you.
But anyway, say that to you. I want to say that to Mr. Brother Keon sitting up there. Well, I said to you that, hey, Keon, they go to you double, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
Right on, right
Go
on.
to you, brother, double, Keon. Love you for being there. Thank you for watching our brother, Keon. And to your guest, Jermaine.
Yes.
Gentlemen, doctors, whoever, I just want to say respectfully, thank you for being there this afternoon, and thank you for your wise advice. Now, Jermaine, you had asked earlier about how do kids feel about what's going on with the election.
Yes.
Now, your guests have already answered that, you know, to the best of their ability, and I appreciate that. But this is my take on it.
Yes.
I'm from the old school, okay? When I was going to school, grade school, my teachers was black. So excuse me for going there. I don't want to go racial or anything like that. But my black teachers that lived in the neighborhood knew the family, knew who was next door. We knew how to act. But these days, it's not like that anymore. And the young kids right now, they have white teachers. Like again, I'm saying I'm not going to be racial about this. But I want to say respectfully and honestly that you have these young kids now that as soon as they do something that the white teachers can identify with, they call the police. And whatever the case may be. I don't care if they're in kindergarten these days, it seems like it that's way. Excuse me for going there. But Jermaine, excuse me for being all over the map. But I'm going to conclude by saying this, gentlemen. I hope you can answer this the best you can since I'm over the map. What the kids are going through right now with the Donald Trump presidency, well, you have white people now coming out acting all kind of ways. They're not in hiding anymore. They're coming out being bold, being racist. Our young kids already been going through dealing with the white teachers and stuff and trying to deal with that. Now, the white teachers can be any kind of way they want to. And our kids just try to do the best they can. And I don't know what to say about that, but Donald Trump presidency, how they're going to affect the young kids, may not be anything much because that's based on the parents and how we raise our kids. But come on now. Everybody can't raise their kids like we do. Everybody can't be like us. Everybody have their own way of how they came and how they feel and whatever they go through, okay? But when you have kids in the classroom have to deal with the white teachers, at that particular time have to deal with that, now they have to deal with more. So excuse me, I'm just saying, everybody. But if you can appreciate what I'm trying to say about this, I think that the young kids, Jermaine,
Yes, sir.
I think because of Donald Trump presidency, it may not, like I said, may not be all that much. But I think they're going to have something else to have to deal with. And gentlemen, I appreciate your response. Everybody have a good day. And thank you, Jermaine.
Thank you.
Thank you. We could probably have like 4 shows on JT's points alone. I mean, because he's really hitting the nail on the head a lot of different issues. 2 different things that he highlighted that I want to also speak to. One is, first of all, the idea of it's true. I would agree that we've had polarizing candidacies before. Now, my own particular perspective on things is that if we're going to mature and develop as a nation, eventually you have to stop looking at what's going to win for your party, and you have to start looking at what's going to be sustainable win for everybody, and to make it a healthy society, that you're not always just trying to be the bigger hammer. But that kind of being said, I would say that there is a decided effect that has been suggested here. JT is right. There's an increase in intolerance and hate crimes more recently. The hostility that you're seeing in the news now, the rising up of what they call alt-right wing, but actually just nothing more but racist groups. I mean, these are things that are being conjured up that have an ambivalent relationship now to the president-elect. So, are these manifestations of him? Are they just right-wing people that are kind of out there? When the same group were burning Obama in effigy 8 years ago at this time period, it seemed very clear that they were against the government. But now to students, to readers, to people in the community when we're seeing these. Is this the representation of our government? So it puts us in a different headspace, in a more defended headspace. So first of all, I'm aware of that. Secondly, I'm also aware of, look at the headspace that puts us in regards to our relationships, our partnerships in the school, that we have clearly still a lack of true diversity at all levels of society. And one example is within the school system. You have, more often than not, white teachers with black students. White female students with black students. And so how is that embodied in the classroom? And even if, and how can anybody be in a good situation or that scenario if the black students are seeing the white female teachers being likened to the people that are now protesting or celebrating, I suppose, through their kind of display of white pride, and they somehow are associating this with the woman who is now supposed to be responsible for them. Can she really understand me? And likewise, the teacher's mindset right now, I think, is one of divisiveness. Are we really, because of the language that's been out there, most, I think, well-intended, going into schools to make a difference, are also feeling discouraged because they feel like they're up against something that they can't handle, and they're discouraged also. So that how much harder it's going to be hard for them to really serve that role. It's a real quandary, and I think JT's really got us thinking in a lot of important directions here. We need to think about.
So how is this actually? What is it about this election particularly, the campaign and the election, that has connected with children? Because I mean, Reagan ran in my day, Jimmy Carter ran.
Earlier. It's an age of social media.
It's the social media.
So everything is out in ways in which before you could protect your kids, but now it's in. I remember back. I don't know. As soon as I say it, everybody's gonna remember. Tommy Thompson was running against Tammy Baldwin, and he got a soundbite of her. And you know what he said? You're damn right. I had my kids running around the house saying that. Why? Because that commercial was on 24/7. I couldn't wait for the election to be over because that's what it was said. But what happened is we live in an age of soundbite. What's exciting? Yes. What's quick? What can I say that's going to spark the races? So we talk about this ability to be divisive. That's what all of this is built upon. It's supposed to get us.
But social
together.
media was around when Hillary and Clinton, Hillary and Obama ran back in. And
Trump, and what happened? That was the most expensive race ever in the history of the United States. That whole campaign battle, and so it's been increasing. Where it's over $5 billion this time. So when we started to look at the amount of money that's being exposed, where did Donald Trump? Donald Trump said it himself. He said, "Social media helped me win this presidency."
Yeah.
But see, what Trump is, and I put on I take a little notes down. I said Trump equals America, and America spelled with 3 Ks. What happened is Trump allowed himself to show that he is America. This is who we are. When we got a lady who can be so audacious to say, "I want a lady who's stripped naked and is so classy, she's going to be better than this ape wearing heels." Who has even the audacity to say something that's untrue, but the audacity to say that? But what that is a feeling. Anybody can look at Michelle Obama and see she is the epitome of grace, class, and essence. But for her to say that lets you know it's a deep-seated root of fear, of anger, and hostility. And when I said Trump equals America, America's the biggest bully in the world. So our kids are only repeating everything that we've ever seen. The way we occupy territories, the way we put drone strikes so we can take over governors and lands and whatnot like that. We have to recognize that we are the biggest bullies in the world because we're the strongest. And so what do kids learn? I'm either going to be bullied or I'm going to get bullied. So you know what? I'd rather be on the other side. And what this election did was just reiterate that fact that, you know what? The person who can talk the craziest, can talk the strongest, can bring the people together in that way, usually wins. And so it's not just this election, but it highlights what we've already been seeing.
So children are more in tune, aware of what is going on the political side as it relates to campaigning. But as it relates to the school environment, let's go to the school environment. You know, population of children in schools have historically been victims of bullying behavior, whether we're talking about Muslims, refugees, minorities, mentally and physically challenged children. So bullying in school is nothing new.
Nothing new.
Separatist behavior isn't new.
What's new is a presidential candidate, to my knowledge, has never acted like a disabled person in attacking somebody with a disability as a way of minimizing their voice. So, I mean, I think there really is the idea that there's some actual overt bullying behavior that kids can look and see. Kids have seen youth do that type
I want
of
you to
thing.
come back to it because President Obama got in trouble. Because he had said, you know what, I bowled, and he bowled at 37. He said, I'm out here
That's
bowling
right.
like Special Olympics.
Yeah,
and what
yeah.
it was is that's one of those things,
Right.
those microaggressions that you don't even realize that you're insulting. Now, Donald
Exactly.
Trump's
Right.
was so flagrant and,
Right.
and egregious where you
Right.
say you can't help but to see, the shame. But even all of us in our everyday language, when we're not trying to, we have to be careful
be
of
careful
those
of that.
microaggressions because we have a culture of bullying built inside of us. So it doesn't matter if it's said in a nice way because families in the Special Olympics got on President
On him,
Obama,
yeah.
and he apologized,
He
which is
apologized
something
quickly.
Trump didn't do with the
It's
same
big
type of
different, yeah.
remorsefulness. But
Right,
what I'm saying
right.
is it's embedded in us in
Yeah.
such a subconscious way in which we offend people. We don't even realize we're doing it because if we are in a position of strength, of being strong, we don't recognize it. We talk about white privilege, but there's all types of privilege.
Privilege.
There's male's
Yeah.
privilege, there's heterosexual privilege, there's Christian privilege. And if you are on the side of privilege, you don't understand the ways in which you bully other people because you don't have to see it.
Yeah.
Julius, you're on Fresh Start today. You have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Brother Joe.
Following elections for years now is, this country is very polarized. And whether it's Democrats or Republicans, one of you guys said earlier, it's like a game being played with especially with the population who doesn't really follow politics, but who follows sound bites.
There you go.
And if you can remember, like when Ronald Reagan was running, I mean, people rallied around him because for the white population, it's an image of like the cowboy, like a John Wayne-ish, come riding in and to save the country with a cowboy hat on, or they rallied, and he didn't really have any really actual plans or proposals to fix anything goes on in this country. And if you can remember, it's 3 times in this country that we could have gotten something done. That's like in 1865, the 1960s, and now. And I'm saying that because in the 1860s, after blacks were freed, that was the time during Reconstruction. It was one time when we could have really, got this country together, treat these people fairly, as equally, not as animals. And you notice, this is compare this to Donald Trump today, because after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, Andrew Jackson, I think, if I'm right, took his place, and all of the things that were going to be created during Reconstruction in the 1870s, it was reversed when he came in office. And if you take it to the 60s, during the civil rights demonstrations and Dr. King, Malcolm X, and all of the assassinations of the Kennedy, that was another moment in history where we could have gotten something done by being fair and honest with each other about this country. And then it comes to now with the Donald Trump. What? I don't know. I didn't think that he would win. I could almost bet my life that he wouldn't win. But now, from hearing, you guys talking, a lot of other knowledgeable people, I see why he won. It's like what will it probably actually take for us to realize that we all live in this country, we all Americans, instead of us separating each other by race or gender, but I mean, just by class. It's class envy.
I got you. All right. Thanks a lot, Julius. Thank you for calling. We're going to respond.
Let me speak to Julius' point, because he said, well, how did we get to this point? Is because we've never had a full America. America has always been built on segregation. And even if we talk about the indoctrination of our children now,
right.
we look at our school system. And if you look at it, you can look at it from a color line system. When you look at certain districts, it's going to be predominantly black. Other ones are going to be predominantly white. When we start to look at special education, how do we start to separate people to show somebody is inferior or weak? Well, we put them on a little bus. We self-contain them in different rooms. We give them labels and tags. And this is where we start to separate people. But with the separation, it's not a separate and equal, but it's the true cause of Jim Crow. It's where we get a separate but unequal effect what's going on. And so what we start to do is indoctrinate our children from our early ages how to discriminate, how to differentiate between who's who and who's not, who's cool, who's a nerd. This is where all of these behaviors are taught and learned. And the sad part is because you always see an innocence in children, but through, like I said, this constant continual indoctrination, and then you add into the teenage years, those awkward years where you're trying to find yourself, and you see the whether it's the mean girl syndrome or the bullying person trying to find themselves, we see that it is now more extended. And then when we get into different levels where we start to we get into high schools where we start to talk about who's in IB classes and who's in AP classes. Sure. And I'll put my own school on blast. And I'm a big general fan. But when we were at Rufus King, most of the people who were in the IB track were my white friend. And all the black of us, the rest of us, the black one, we was in a regular course. And even though it's a good education, the schools looks like it's diverse and like it's whatnot, but it's segregated on different levels. So, getting to the point, how do we get to this bullying? Because it's a superiority set, oh, I'm in a IB, I'm a this, and we find it whether it's now this person is a jock or this person is involved in some type of clubs. I remember wearing my Letterman jacket. That was my way to bully people in a sense. I said, look at these chevrons, look at this shield, look at this captain star, look at this letter in football, look at this letter. It's always a way by us showing the things that we did good, but it's the way we feel good is because we belittle other people saying, you don't have this, and this is what makes me special. And then once you start to add in going to college and you start to talk in financial factors that really can cause a separation, the car I drive, the house I live in, all of those different things, the clothes that I wear, those are all things that allows us to stay separate. So when we say that we are America, that why can't we look at ourselves as America? Because we've always had second-class citizens. We always have people. We live in a serfdom. We've always had a false democracy that we lived in, and the illusion is to make us believe that it's a democracy. And we start this by what? Educating. There's a such thing saying there's no such thing as a free lunch. So if you get free public education, I promise you it's free for a reason. So they can teach you what you need to be taught to keep the system as a status quo.
Dr. Rader.
Yes.
There's an organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they just did a survey, and they surveyed 2,000 teachers, and there were 5,000 comments that were submitted, and out of that 5,000 comments, more than 1,000 mentioned Donald Trump, in contrast to a total of fewer than 200 contained the names of Ted Cruz, Bernie Sanders, or Hillary Clinton.
Sure.
And so some of these teachers reported in this survey that their students were saying certain things. One, they're terrified of Donald Trump. One teacher said, my fifth graders got in a fist fight on the playground yesterday. It started when one of the boys quoted Donald Trump. Another one talked about when the high school Latino basketball team came out on the court, that the other team started chanting, build a wall, build a wall.
Yes.
So it is taking on a whole different beast or nature than what we have seen in the past.
Yes.
So from a mental health standpoint, and your clinic, Sebastian,
Family Psychology
Practice at 1720 West Florence Avenue. Yeah, Suite what?
125.
Suite 25. 125. Okay, so Sebastian Family Psychology Practice. You all probably are the most diverse outpatient mental health clinic in
the state.
And the population that you were serving are who?
Maybe, that could be. That could very well
be the nation. But you're serving families from which communities?
Well, from all communities, and including refugee and immigrant groups.
And that's what I want to get to.
So I'm excited to be able to talk on this behalf, and I'm also somewhat saddened because I am aware of. I think Trump has got he's got his work cut out for him. He now has to be a unifier. He has to try to figure out how to undo, get his foot out of his mouth, sort of thing. But it's had ramifications. I'll tell you just today. I've had a friend of mine that had he's got biracial child who had never experienced any form of negative conduct at school up until now, probably with second or third grade. Since Trump has been elected president, in this past week 3 separate incidences of this person being targeted, and I'm talking about Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, so predominantly white, but this is a nicer kind of progressive school that she's at, so one that probably wouldn't expect this kind of thing. So this is happening, and the caseload that I experienced on the day of his election is not like the caseload I experienced the day after 9/11, where every house I walked in felt like it was hit by something. Most were surprised at the outcome, and there was a fear and an anxiety. And now I'm working with the inner city and I'm working with immigrants. This is very much on people's minds. The idea earlier about Reagan, and I just wanted to touch on that recently because I think there's something different here. Reagan had his cowboy thing, and the one thing that Reagan did that made him a unifier is he made the enemy in another country. It was Russia. So we were able to look at our enemy that's overseas. Now he also made the enemy the welfare queen. Remember, he had language around that also. So at times he was at warfare against America as well, particular subsect of America. However, generally speaking, his bigger enemy that he always made was overseas. What I think Trump has created is an enemy amongst us that has somehow climbed over the border, that might be a terrorist, that might have some sort of secret vendetta against us. And with no real basis for making that claim. It might be anybody, and it might be most, the sense that you get is most people coming over from Mexico are doing these bad things. So I think what it really has done is it's shaken up people who have maybe started to feel more comfortable in kind of popping their head out in an America that they were hoping to be more diverse and inclusive, and now terrified to see that there's this rhetoric out there, and the anxiety is very real. I have clients that on the day of, one young boy woke up and started rapping and talking about how he wanted to shoot his classmates and all this kind of nonsense. He's never been that way, and as the conversation went on, he said, "I'm afraid because I'm partially Hispanic, I'm afraid the kids are going to pick on me." This is a kid with special needs who has a hard time making sense of things the way it is. Now, this kid is waking up in a new America last week, Wednesday, and from his standpoint was thinking that the school itself would be a different place when he showed up on Wednesday. To some extent, perhaps he's been right. Maybe these things are happening. And then even the fact, I don't think these are happening as a rule, hard and pressed rule all the time, but even that we're here talking about now is kind of, we're fanning that a bit, and people are now realizing it. It's becoming more prevalent and more aware. So there is an anxiety out there, and as we talk about it and trying to eradicate, we also have to be mindful of the fact that we're also feeding it at the same time. How do we really get our youth and our families to feel like they are safe in America, that they are safe in school, and what do teachers and parents need to do to make that happen?
And I think to add to that, because you said a lot as well, but when we talk about home, and that's that first institution of knowledge, that first institution of educating kids. And so we got to have parents who, if parents are having difficult times dealing with this election or the local elections and whatnot, these are opportunities. And again, I'm going to go back to teaching moments where we need to talk to our children about how they feel about what they've seen, because the one voice you're getting under your roof, it might be totally different from the 10,000 other images that you're seeing on Disney and everything else, because all those images are popping up all the time about Trump, about Hillary, and it's negative.
About Trump, but the issues here is around deportation. There's a big issue here, immigration and deportation. But when we look at some of the facts, the Obama administration has deported more people than any other previous administration, earning him the nickname Deporter-in-Chief. So should Latinos, Somalians, Burmese, and other immigrant kids, or children in particular, be more afraid of being profiled and targeted for deportation, bullying, and discrimination just because Donald Trump has been elected?
Well, you're asking two questions. Is it rational what's going to happen and the emotional impact? One of the biggest things that a president does is he puts up facade. They that refer to President Obama as the deporter-in-chief are usually his adversaries, and that's not a term that I'm really hearing amongst the Latina population, that he's not necessarily viewed that way. Amongst the Latina population now, Trump is viewed in a certain way. So, the president doesn't call all the shots. The president has some executive authority, but doesn't make the laws. There are things that we still don't completely understand about what the president does. So the idea that the policies of the Obama presidency may actually be no different than the Trump presidency doesn't change the fact that the executive presentation of the person who's not going to be inhabiting that office makes a big difference to the people. This is what is people are using to guess what America is all about. And are we about trying to help people who are here be here in a healthy way and make a go of it, or are we about trying to separate families and send people back at any cost?
See, this is the thing. When we talk about deportation, you got to look and see who's being deported. Now, with Trump, he made a specific example of the Mexicans and building the wall. So anybody from a Mexican descent would have a heightened sense of, of
anxiety,
fear and whatnot.
Fear, yeah.
But when you look at normally throughout America, the people who were imported are usually the quickest people to be deported or not even let inside this country. So when we talk about who should have a real fear, those are the people who should have a fear. And I think why we rarely get anything done is because we don't tell the truth. We sugarcoat stuff and we make things seem better than what it is. America is a horrible place. Sister Tammy Athena had been a beautiful event on Monday with Dr. Steve Perry at the Rep. Now the Rep is like this place you consider to be nice. So it's a little reception beforehand. But you know what the sign said going up? You cannot talk about the election. Not Tammy Athena. I'm talking about the Rep. They had their employees could not talk about the election. You know why? Because it caused too much hostility. Now this goes to your point, Sean.
Yep.
If adults cannot talk about a political race, presidential race in the workforce, where we're supposed to have this smooth transition as a democracy, then what is being taught in the homes? What is being shared? We had a conversation here last week. We all was emotional about what was going on because what was going on. So when you have emotional parents, they're going to say those things to the children. And then when you don't have to have a filter, just imagine how that is. We don't never want to talk about the deep-seated roots of racism, the legacy of white supremacy in this culture, just of xenophobia. So it's not just dealing with race, but anything that's different. And anything that's different, we want to step on it. And people sometimes, for the sake of being politically correct, won't say those things, but they believe those things. And the one thing that I absolutely want to thank President-elect Trump for is this, for waking our eyes up for us to realize that we are all messed up. And it's not until we recognize that we messed up that we might get upset and do something about it, but at least that we're not under this cloud that, hey, you know what? We lived in a great America before Trump, before Obama, and the times before. It's always been horrible. It's always been bad. And if you are one of those, one of those marginalized, oppressed groups, then you felt it before, and you understand.
Wilson, you're on Fresh Start today. You have a quick question or comment?
Yeah, I was looking at this thing today when Muhammad Ali was talking about back in the day, they was asking him, is he racist? And he was saying, no, I'm not racist. He was saying just, I want to help out my people. The Jews is helping out their people. The white man is helping out his people. And he was just saying, I want to help out my people. Whenever it comes to us saying that we want to help out our people, we be labeled, like it's something wrong. And as far as Donald Trump, I hate that the man is president, but if you really look at what's happening out here in the society, whereas kids is just out here fighting and they putting it on Facebook, again, and you don't have man or woman to get out the car and stop and try to stop these things. What I'm trying to say is a lot of stuff has been going on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm talking about a lot of stuff. I'm not even going to get into it, but 2 years ago, people used to say, what? Is this prejudice out here? No, it's not prejudice, no. And this is mostly black people. No. There's no prejudice. Now all these kids are just coming out. I mean, like everybody's surprised. Like, wow, look what's going on. Go back to South Africa, Bridges. Man, these people had this stuff in their mind long time ago. It's just not because Trump is president, boom, it pops up. Mm-hmm. Trump is president, and really, I even looked at the news camera. I mean, CNN. I mean, the people that's for Trump. their faces is like smiling. It's like they like just before the stuff that they would say, like, okay, cool. Is it prejudice? Black folks. No, it's not prejudice. White folks will sit back, with a normal face. No, it's not prejudice. And everybody is like, is it prejudice? I mean, we acting like we shocked, man.
I got you.
We act like this is something that just came out the closet when it's been here all the time. But Trump just 2017, like he really just opened the door and like, you got a lot of people calling, racism is coming out the pocket, and it's like we had the Ku Klux Klan, and it's like everybody tried to hush. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. All I'm just trying to say is, we acting like this is something new.
And it's not. You're right. You got. Thanks a lot, Wilson. Racism is as American as apple pie. That's the best way I can put it. So,
one other thing he added, and it was very, very relevant, when you talk about community parenting, we need to start at home. We need to talk to our children. If we can't talk to our children, we need to be conscious enough to find somebody else who can talk to our children for us if we're having a difficulty, whether it's a relative, a counselor at the school, a mentor, a neighbor. We need community parenting because we need to help our own.
All right. And that's a very important, and it's a great segue into this next part about bullying and immigrant bullying. So bullying is typically described as a unique form of aggressive behavior that is intentional, harmful, repetitive in nature, and in which there is an imbalance of power, either psychological or physical, between the aggressor and the victim. It can take on many forms, including physical, verbal, and social. Sometimes it's called social media, relational bullying, and can include gossip, exclusion. The way culture defines bullying can vary. Now, with immigrant bullying, it's a bullying that targets another's immigrant status or family history of immigration in the form of taunts and slurs, derogatory references to the immigration process, physical aggression, social manipulation, or exclusion because of immigration status. When I think about foster children in school, when I think about children who have disabilities who are in MPS and other public school districts and private schools, bullying has always had a presence, and folks have always had to deal with that. So for parents who are listening, Mr. Roby talked about talking with our children. Some people may not know how to talk to their children. So Dr. Rader, Dr. Smith, can you give us some specific tips to parents and educators on how to help?
Sure. The first thing how not to do is the idea is that you don't bully bullies. And the idea that, if somebody says 2 + 2 = 4, if somebody says 2 + 2 = 5, a math teacher wouldn't shame them and make them feel foolish. When children are engaging socially, they're trying to figure things out. Oftentimes it's based on ignorance and not truly understanding. And what you do when you push down, as an adult, you kind of push down and you're going to punish or demean or something the person. What you're really doing is you're throwing a rock that's meant for somebody else, and you're hitting a kid with it. So the idea is you have to really think this racism thing. This kid is transmitting this frequency, but they aren't responsible for the frequency. We've got to try to correct it. The other thing is you can correct it at the community level. One of the things that we've been telling people is you can stand up against bullies, or you can stand up with the bullied. And the second is a lot more effective, is to tell people, I got your back, I'm here for you, we're gonna stick with you on this thing, and understanding where they're coming from, what they're experiencing, and also what they're needing. Sometimes kids that are bullied say, hey, just leave it be, I don't want you to be interfering, and for us to be able to let them have some power and some involvement in that. The other thing is when you are bringing in who's going to solve the problem, and it's helpful to look at this is a shared problem, not just this one kid that has it, but how do we as a school address this thing? Some schools have mentoring, that's a great thing. Peer mentors can be wonderful. And then corrective, we did a lot of talk about say no to drugs or whatever. Can we have some corrective, proactive responses in the classroom about what it means to really accept one another? And when you have kids from other countries, educate the classmates about those classes and celebrate them. There's a great school, Humboldt Park School on the south side. They do a wonderful job of really embracing the diversity they have. They don't have people experiencing the hostility that other students have and you look at the demographics now, who's going to that school. You see people from Somalia, you see people from Iraq, you see people from Mexico and Latina students, and for the most part, they're being welcomed. And because they make this about diversity and inclusion, they can teach at that level. So
Great.
Let me add a realistic component to that too, because what Dr. Rader said is absolutely correct. and this is Ramell Smith. This is not Jermaine Reed or Fresh Start. My kids have three rules when it comes to bullying, because it's a specific type of bullying. I say, hey, you know what? I do teach them education. You know, how to ignore behavior, how to move around, how to try to do the right things, how to try to talk. But then the second one is to tell a teacher, tell somebody who's in charge. But this is what they tell them. Say, listen, I have a problem, and I hope you can fix it, because if you can't fix it, I'm going to fix it myself. And if the teacher doesn't fix it, their third problem is this. They will fix it physically, because most times with bullies, if you pop them in the mouth and people say, oh, that's not the right thing. No, you pop a bully in the mouth, he gonna stop bullying you. I don't send my kid to school to get beat up. And if you cannot control them kids, my kids they have a civil right to defend themselves, and they will protect themselves. And just when my kid hit them in the mouth, you know what that's gonna do? You're gonna gotta call his parent, you gotta call me in, and you know what? Now we can talk and we can end in the thing. But all of this thing, sending our kids to school to get bullied, we can say all the nice stuff we say. Let your child come home with a busted nose, with a black eye, with something stole. We not having it. And so
I
what
had to
we
stand up to the gooch.
No.
Gooch got beat up.
And my thing is
My
this.
lunch.
People say, "Are you advocating violence?" So I'm not advocating violence, because my son, if my son get hit, I'm upset at him, because I'm saying, hey, why didn't you move out the way? Why didn't you block it? Or why was you slipping? And if my son get beat up, I'm looking at his twin. It's like, why you didn't get beat up too? So when we talk about these things, what we have to do is be realistic with it. And the thing is this. Sometimes people don't act until they're forced to act. And if the school, sometimes the kids don't say anything, this bullying goes on and it goes on. People suffer in silence. But if you get popped in the mouth by another person, now eyes are open and it brings attention to it, and you can educate the masses so it doesn't have to continue. But you hit my kid, they're going to hit you back.
I'm telling you, the goose shouldn't take my lunch no more after that the little squabble we got to. George, you're on Fresh Start today. George, you have a question or comment?
I had a little bit of a comment about everything that you guys were talking about, but the gentleman that just got off the phone, he kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, because I've always known that the best way to deal with a bully is to punch him in the mouth. Most bullies that I've ever met, they only going to pick on people that they think or know they have an advantage of. I've never seen a bully mess with anybody that he think he can't whoop. Second opinion that I wanted to make was that this stuff that you see going on now with this racial stuff that's going on, this pot has been stirring for a long time now. And it really started after President Obama got in, because to be honest with you, they fell asleep on that just like we fell asleep on this one. Because who in their right mind would have thought that Donald Trump would have been president? Nobody in their right mind. Some people thought, I'm going to stay at home. This is in the bag. So we fell asleep just like they fell asleep. They were mad when President Obama got elected. A black man running this country, they wasn't having that. So the disrespect level that when he's doing a speech or something, or he's talking to Congress and they yelling out liar and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, our morals and our values in this country are going down. Now, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on any type of social media. My brothers live on that stuff. So sometimes when I'm around, I might look, and the comments that people make, I mean, are so wild and so nasty that, you know, it's just like, so when your kids see this type of behavior coming from adults, what do you think they're going to emulate? Exactly. They're going to emulate the same type of behavior.
Gotcha.
Did you guys see, ever watch Jimmy Kimmel or Good Morning America, where they asked these little kids what did they think about the presidency when they were having a debate, and they said they were acting worse than us. So little kids from 5 to 8 years old are saying this. What does that mean for us as adults, that we as adults are setting those type of examples for our children, for them to follow and for them to emulate? This is a sad time that we're living in right now. I'm glad you guys are having this discussion, because if we don't do something quick to get this turned around, it's going to be a whole lot of stuff. I wish one of them would come up to me and try some of that stuff with me in mind. It's going to be a whole lot of stuff popping off. And I'm not a violent man, but I'm not going through what my grandparents, my ancestors, them. You're not going to be running up on me, calling me the N-word, hit me upside my head, trying to do all of this. But you guys keep on having this discussion. It's beautiful. In some kind of way, we're going to have to. Now, here's my opinion on this.
Yes, sir.
I don't know where God is in this, all of this, but even if you don't believe in God or Jesus, the number one rule that I always carry with myself: treat others like you want to be treated. That's the bottom line.
Gotcha. Thanks a lot, Brother George.
God is in it. That's what David did to Goliath. Goliath was a big bully, and what he do? He got his head cut off with his own sword. And you know, we talk about social learning, and Dr. Ben, you made reference to 9/11. Soon as 9/11 happened, what was America's response? Let's go to war. Never again. Never forget.
Right, never
so
forget.
what are we teaching our kids? If you hit me, we're going to hit you back, but we're going to hit you back harder. So we do what we're taught.
All right. Where are bullies made? That's the question.
In America.
No, drill it down. Drill it down.
Imbalance of power. I mean, the notion that you are limited in some way, in shape or form. In fact, you're talking about David Goliath. I actually did a piece recently on my blog, Community Feeling, and the idea is what we're doing, bullies are made in our mind. So what happens is, if I'm constantly a David, and many of us feel this way, and this I wrote about, we feel like we're constantly a David, so we have to find a bigger stone to hurl at the Goliath. We see the other person as a Goliath. The idea is, as we do that, as we find low ways of us being to assert ourselves because we feel that we're in a less than position, we create, even ourselves, justification for attacking somebody who we perceive to be bigger. So the notion is the very sense of feeling inferior, feeling less than. The kids are born into this. They're born small, weak, and vulnerable. And the world kind of, when it's hostile, particularly when it's very competitive, it tells us we have to fight and we have to win at any cost. So that's the fabric. And if we are a cooperative America, I think that's a solution for bullying. If we are competitive America, that's a solution for that's actually going to be the cause of bullying.
And whether that we are superior or whether we're better than this person, whatever, those messages oftentimes stem from out of the home and carry over into other environments.
Sure.
I'm going home at 4 o'clock today, so this is not a 4:30 show. So I'm going to wrap this up. Going back to my original point is that folks spend millions and millions of dollars on sleazy, mudslinging, character assassinating presidential and local campaigns. And as adults, we need to grow up and be more mature so that we can be better examples to our children. It's not just about the Trump effect, but it's the American effect that has been so toxic and messed up a lot of communities and folks. So I appreciate you all being on today. Tomorrow I'm going to be on the Rise and Shine morning show, and I have folks coming in from the Pan-African Community Association who will be here. And we're going to be talking about the impact of the 2016 presidential campaign and the Pan-African community. So it's going to be really interesting to have the president of that association here with us. So you can tune in at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning on WNOV 860 AM, The Voice. Be well, be safe. Until next time.
Take care.